So I picked up this Kubota B2601 about 8 months ago, and immediately realized how bad the lighting is on it. I would use the tractor for snow blowing and for working late in the evening a lot, and the problem is you turn the headlights on, and as soon as you pick up the front bucket, you block the headlights, so they're essentially unusable. Being into 3D printing, I wanted to come up with a better option. So I went to Harbor Freight, I picked up a couple of their little LED light bars, and I whipped up these mounts for the rollover protection system. So I'll show you what I did here for designing these. They're pretty simple, two-part design. They have wire channels built into them, and they're set up to work with a 1/2-inch bolt. So they're pretty universal as long as your lights have a similar mounting system. But why don't I run you through the design and the assembly of these, and I'll show you what I came up with. So this is what I came up with for the ROPS bar light mount. It's a fairly simple design. It took me a couple prototypes to get everything the way that I wanted to. But you can see here, I have it set up so that you have these 1/4-20 bolts will pass through as a slip fit. The nuts get press fit into here. I'll show you as I actually install them. And the bolts that come with the light kit itself will get pressed through here. Finally, I have these channels reliefed into it for wire management. So essentially the lights will get mounted to the front and back, and then I fold the wire back over, pass it through these to hold it nice and tidy. Then for the wires as they come down the ROPS bar over my light panel switch, I did essentially the same thing. It's a similar design, it's just shrunken. Same 1/4-20 bolts, same nuts, and same size channels. So I'm going to print off 2 of each of these designs so that I can mount the lights up on the top and then run these down the side of the ROPS bar to keep the wires nice and tidy so we're not getting hung up on anything when we're driving. Alright, so this is one pair of our light mount clamps. Although they're really interchangeable, you can put whichever side you want on top. I'm going to keep this side with the light mount on the bottom because I want to have these wire channels on the underside of the rollover protection bar. I just want to keep it out of the way to keep any trees or anything from grabbing it. So what we're going to do to assemble these is you slide the bolt that came with the light kit right in that hole. You can notice it's pretty tight, you can't press it in. Just throw a washer on there, one of the nuts that came with the kit, thread it on down, and then just take a 1/2-inch wrench and pull it right into place. So these pull in nice and smooth. Just take your nut back off so you can mount your light on. Same thing on the other side. Make sure you get it lined up. Press it in as far as you can by hand. Pull it in with a wrench. The other thing you have to do on this side is to get the lock nuts in. So these you technically could pull into place. It's a lot easier to just set them in by hand and then just give them a whack with a hammer. So I'm going to go ahead and place these in. This one's fighting me a little bit. Grab a hammer, tap them in. This one I may have to pull in. Doesn't look like the hole printed all that well. Oh, there we go. The other side, there's nothing to do on them. They're just countersunk for the socket head screws. So what we're going to do to assemble this now, let's get all these nuts and washers out of the way. Take one light, lock washer, and a nut, thread that right in. Same thing here. Now I seem to have lost my last lock washer, but I'll put a regular washer on and then I'll find one later. Now don't go crazy tightening these up because you're going to have to manipulate it once you get it on the bar, but just tighten them enough that you don't have to worry about the light falling out of place or anything. Now with the wires, lay them straight across here. I'll probably remove those tags at some point, but lay them straight across. I'm going to put a little piece of black duct tape across these just to hold them in place while I mount the whole mechanism up, so I'm not fighting with the cables popping out. Just a little piece of black duct tape there. Fold this over for here. Put that guy in. Now you'll see that these the cables are they're a nice fit in the channel, but they're not going to like snap and hold or anything like that for you. Same thing here, just a little bit of tape. I keep these tight just so I have less wires hanging to get eventually hung up on branches or whatever we're going to drive through. All right, perfect. So now we're ready to take this whole assembly. We're going to throw it up on the rollover protection bar. Put these on top, and then just drive the bolts right in with an impact gun. Right, so I'll go ahead and set up the camera over there, and you can see what that looks like. All right, so we've got our lights and our bottom mount assembly here. I'm gonna have these cables pointing this direction towards the right side of the tractor, because I'm eventually going to run cables down this side of the rollover bar and then to my switches over here. But let's go ahead and toss this up here. You want to kind of eyeball it to get in the middle. You have a hole here right in the center of the rollover bar, so just try to get there. If you want to go nuts about it, you can of course break out a tape measure. I'm not going to get that crazy. So take your other side of the mount, hold it in there with your finger, throw a bolt in, start threading it in. Got my impact set on the lowest setting here. Going to do it till it grabs. The same one on the bottom. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. I'm working in a cross pattern here. So I did the top left and then the bottom right. Don't give it too many ooga chuggas. Don't break your mount off. Alright, other side now. I guess that's another reason to not tighten up these guys too much, is because as we're putting this in, we're going underneath here. So if you have that really tight, it's just you're gonna end up fighting it. Two ooga chuggas. toss these last guys in and we're all set. Now, when you're driving these in, go nice and slow. Try to do it evenly. If you get, let's say, the top side all the way snugged in, and then you just start here, you're going to have a really hard time getting those bolts to line up. And, I mean, this stuff's just, it's plastic, so you might end up snapping it. So, just be mindful of what you're working with. All right. So, go ahead and flip our bar up. And you guys can see, you get this nice, neat package here. Oh, drop the tripod. You get this nice, neat package here. All your wires are tucked away nice. Nothing for branches to grab on. Bolts are all your perfect length here. Right, you can't really see that, but nice. Couldn't ask for more. Go ahead and tighten these guys up. I wouldn't really worry about these for now. Once you get the lights on, you're going to want to readjust those and position your headlights wherever you want. So the next thing that we're going to have to do is get our wire management clamps going. And I'm thinking I'm going to put probably one here, one right above the hinge, one right below the hinge, and then I might do one more here. I'll see. I'll print up 4 sets. I'll see what that looks like once I get them all in place. Now, originally what I wanted to do was feed the cables through here. I mean, it's just nice to have it all out of the way. But as I ran the cable through, I immediately noticed that I was getting my SJ cord here was getting chewed up by the inside of that. The inside there is fairly sharp. And on the hinge, when you're opening and closing, it's creating a pinch point, and it's eventually going to damage the cable. So as much as I'd like to keep it tucked in there out of the way, it's going to ruin the cable at some point. So we're going to not do that. But anyway, let's get that. Let's get those wire management clamps set up, and then I'll join you back here to mount that up. Fresh off the print bed, we have 4 sets of these wire management clips. You have to do the same prep to these that we did on the light mounts. So just take 2 nuts, pop them in there, tap them with a hammer to seat them into place, and just send that 1/4-20 bolt through the other end of them. So once you have these all prepped, we're going to go on over to the tractor and start mounting them up, and then we'll tuck that wire into the ROPS bar, keep it all nice and clean and out of the way. So there's more than one way to skin this cat, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull power from my cigarette lighter port here for these lights. Now, this is a 15 amp outlet, so it should be good for 180 watts, if my math's right there. These lights are only 23 watts a piece, so we're well within that range. So what I'm going to do is, on the wiring leading into this, I'm putting some of these tap adapters. Some of these tap adapters. You crimp down on the wire with them, and then you can connect a 1/4-inch quick connection to the back of it. So I have those already crimped on those wires. I'll show you when I get over there. Then essentially on each, I'm going to have these piggyback quick connects, and this will run straight out to the negative on the lights, and then the positives will go through these. I've already crimped all these, and on this end, I've soldered these connections and heat shrink them. Essentially what I do, I'll include a diagram, but what I do is I stagger my wire cuts, and then I slide heat shrink over it, solder them together, slide the heat shrink back, heat it up, do the same thing on the other side, and then I have one big tube that covers the whole mess. So they're well insulated. Another note that I do, which I don't know if other people do this as well, but on connections like this that are going to be outside, or it runs the chance of moisture coming down or even metal touching it, I just solder it up and then I cover the mess with silicone. I know some manufacturers do it with essentially like hot glue. This is just what I had on hand. It's just an extra step to keep the wire from A, pulling out, or B, shorting out if they decide to vibrate together or something falls on it or something like that. It might not be entirely necessary, but it's just something that I like to do on these. All right, so I'm going to go back over to the tractor now, and then we'll snap this into place. We'll connect this wire, and then I'll show you what we worked up for the wire management after that. Alright, so I made a video of me making all these connections, but I realized all you can really see is the back of my hands and my wrists. So I figured I'd make this wiring diagram to make it a little bit easier for you. I listed all the components that I'm going to use in this, and in the description of the video I put links to where you can buy some kits on Amazon for these parts. Alright, so starting off, here's the outlet that's on the quad, or on the tractor. The cigarette lighter port or 12-volt outlet, whatever you want to call it. On the positive and negative going to it, I have these crimp-on splice connectors. Then on the negative side, one cable from the SJ is going to a piggyback connector, and then the other one's just getting a female connector. And you're going to crimp both those in. Those lead straight up and out to the pigtails on the LED lights, and you're done for the negative. For the positive, I have a female connector here. It runs up to a piggyback, and one side of the piggyback, the female end, goes to one of the switches. The switch leads out to another quick connector to the positive on the SJ, eventually to the light. On the other side, I have this female quick connector, runs out to another female quick connector that runs to the second switch. And then that again runs out to the pigtail on the LED light. It's really not rocket science. When you're putting this together, I had put the two switches in to the plastic tray, whatever you want to call it, that panel. And then I pre-wired this guy, and then I put all my leads in place so that once I got the SJ in place, I was able to just do a couple quick connections, and really I was done. But I'll go ahead and I'll play the video on the side here while I'm doing this so you can see what that looks like. Hope this clears it up a little bit. Take your cabling, you're going to run it behind the ROPS bar, and just feed it through the wiring that you have for this outlet, and then also your seatbelt. Now, take the two ends, send them up through this guy, this trim piece for the ROPS bar. And first thing you want to do, run them all the way up, plug them into your lights. Make sure that you have the right, first off, that they work, and that you have the right cable going to the right light. Mine are backwards. So, no big deal. Unplug them. Give me the old switcheroo. And both work, both are correct. All right, power the tractor back down. When you're doing your wire management, you're going to want to start from the top here. We have to leave slack on the bottom for this hinge. I'll get into that in a minute. We're also going to pull a service loop down there and then hide it underneath the fender. Let's go ahead. I'll put my first one here right about the curve. I've got my impact set on the lower setting. If you have an impact button that's not adjustable, just either be careful or use a drill and set your clutch to a low setting. Pull that in nice and tight. Next one, right above the hinge. Set your wires in there. Now, what I'm going to do with these bottom guys is I'm going to leave them very loose for right now. So I'm going to put them in place so that our cabling is stuck. But last one is going on the other side here. So you're going to take your cables, feed them over. This one's still tight. Just snug it up a little bit for now. We still want to be able to move wire in and out. Once those are all in place, take your ROPS bar, fold it all the way down. Start feeding wire through. When it's closed, it takes more cable because you have this loop here. So mine actually can't go all the way down because I'm hitting my snow blower here. But I'll just give it an extra little bit of slack, and then I'll set it in place. Wow. Flip this back up. And then what I'm going to do with this wire, with this cable, is I'm just going to flip it back here and tuck it over the clip for the, I don't know what the hell to call that. You know what I mean. Anyway, take your SJ, send it back down through here. And last step, just take your cabling and roll it on up. And we're gonna stick it up over the ROPS bar and just zip tie it into place so that it's all tucked up out of the way. I'll do that off camera, but there you go. That's gonna be it. That's your whole setup there, really. As you can see, it ends up being a pretty nice package if I do say so myself. Everything's tucked up out of the way, nice and secure. You shouldn't have an issue with anything getting hung up on branches or anything if you drive through the woods. And you just have these two push buttons right here that are nice and out of the way, easy to use when you're on it. And I'll go ahead and once we hit nighttime here, I'll turn these on and I'll show you what they look like. But they're pretty impressive for only, I think, a $45 light, something like that. But yeah, as long as you can 3D print these parts, you have a pretty cheap lighting setup that I think looks great. As promised, this is my nighttime driving video with these Harbor Freight lights. To start off the video, I just have the stock Kubota headlights. Then here I'm switching over to the Harbor Freight guys. I have both of the sets of lights on right now. In a second, I'll switch the stock lights off. Turns out that my camera is really bad at nighttime, so this video looks a lot darker than it really is. In reality, you could use these lights to work at night. My main reason for getting these was for snow blowing. You know, in the wintertime, it's pitch black by 4 p.m. and I want to be able to clear my driveway off and see what I'm actually doing. So these will definitely help accomplish this task. If you guys are interested in doing this project and you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll, of course, try to answer anything the best I can. If you enjoyed the video, if you found this helpful at all, please like, comment, or subscribe. I'm really trying to do more of these DIY videos and product reviews in the near future. All right, hope you enjoyed. Have a good day, guys.